Welcome to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman, a podcast loaded with practical tips, powerful scripts, personal stories, and simple steps to make even the toughest conversations easier. So get ready to get the information you need to make the impact you want from someone you trust, your friend, parenting expert, Dr. Robyn Silverman.
Since we're always talking about helping kids thrive here on the podcast, whether we're talking about boys' development, girls' development, empathy, responsibility, friendship, or some other challenge, quick note about a tool that I have created that helps to create connection and conversation in minutes. If you haven't heard about them, they're called Kidversation cards. They're right here. And it's a full 52 cards, one meaningful question on the front, a small action on the back. And in 3 to 5 minutes, you can move from small talk to real talk in the car, at the table, anywhere. Our sale is live and it has free shipping in the United States. And you'll have a digital starter kit so that you can begin tonight. I have been loving the videos and the photos that you've been tagging me in using those Kidversation cards. Thank you so much for letting me know about these, because otherwise I wouldn't know how great the cards are for you. And yes, they make great gifts. Grab a deck for you, one for a teacher, a coach, or a grandparent at kidversationcards.com. Many parents worry about how to reach their tween and teen boys, especially when it comes to big topics like emotions, mental health, relationships, sex, power, and responsibility. There's a long-standing belief that boys don't want to talk, but the truth is that many boys want connection. They just don't always know how to start that conversation, and they may think that you don't want to talk to them about it. Today, we're talking about how parents can open up the door to meaningful dialogue with their sons, recognize the moments when boys are ready to talk, and use everyday conversations to help raise confident, caring, emotionally intelligent young men. Joanna Schroeder and Christopher Pepper are the co-authors of Talk to Your Boys, 16 Conversations to Help Tweens and Teens Grow into Confident, Caring Young Men. Joanna is a parenting journalist and media critic whose work on raising healthy boys has appeared in the New York Times, the Boston Globe, Vox, and more. And she writes the newsletter Zooming Out. Christopher is an award-winning health educator in San Francisco Unified School District and the writer of the best-selling Substack Teen Health Today, where he focuses on mental health, substance use, sexuality, and healthy masculinity. Together, they combine expert insight with the real voices of boys to help families navigate crucial conversations that build connection and resilience. What a perfect marriage of conversations between Christopher and Joanna and me today. This is just perfect. So welcome, Joanna and Christopher, to How to Talk to Kids About Anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
We're thrilled to have you here. This makes complete sense. This is such a good situation here because we have very loyal listeners that are going to be very excited that you're focusing on boys. We've recently concentrated on girls, so this follows just beautifully. We want to start with a game that you might know, you may not know, High-Low Buffalo. High-Low Buffalo gives us the high, most recent high in your life, the most recent low, and then a little tidbit about you that other people might not know. I've heard all kinds of things now. Rosalind Wiseman began dance classes. I've heard from other people about skydiving, all kinds of good things. What is your high, your low, and your buffalo? Something that many people might not know about you.
I can go. So a high for me, I have two sons that are in my life. A 16-year-old who's at home, so I see all the time. But I also have a 23-year-old who's got his own apartment. He's in his senior year of college, and had dinner with him last night. And I think it's just really gratifying to see a kid kind of on the verge of really launching into their life. And we were talking about what classes he picked up for his last semester of college and what he's saving money for to do what he wants to do afterwards. And it's really sweet to get to that stage of parenting.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And a low is, I'm also in the time of life where I've got older adults, my parents and people that I care about who are dealing with real serious health concerns. And there's a lot of caretaking and worry going on in my life around the people that I care about, and trying to be there for them and be attentive. And I think my holiday season is going to be full of a lot of, checking on people's health status.
Sorry to hear
Um,
that.
yeah, I know that's often for people when they're parenting right now. They're sort of in that sandwich space of dealing with both caring for kids and caring for parents or older people that they care about. Um,
Absolutely.
and a buffalo for me, one of the things I do in my life to stay connected with friends and as a social outlet is I'm in a choir called the Conspiracy of Beards. It's a men's choir, and we sing the songs of Leonard Cohen. And we are doing a show on Sunday night, and we had practice last night, and we learned a new song
Oh,
that we're going
wow.
to perform. We're going to perform on Sunday. So,
That's last
um,
minute.
so we're performing with with a couple other artists, and one of them was like, "Do you want to do a song with me?" So we said yes. We're learning the song this week, and we'll be on stage on Sunday night, and we'll see how it goes.
Does everybody have a beard?
You can have your beard in your heart.
Thank you. And Joanna, what about you?
Oh my gosh. Well, the high, I just finished writing an article for Slate, reporting an article about friendship in children and how it's changing. And the big question is best friendship dead? So
Okay.
that was an enormous amount of work. I interviewed a ton of experts and I was overwhelmed. Like it's a book. It's basically a book. And I had to write a feature-length article. And my high was getting it done.
Nice.
Because
Congrats.
man, that feeling of like there's a thing to do really is there in your head, and then it's done.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So that's my high. My low is also the news, like what you said, but I'm going to choose a different one because although the news of what's been happening lately has really it is the most significant low. Another one that some of the parents listening might relate to is I have a senior in high school. He's my second son, and he wants to play baseball in college. And there have been all of these, I will try not to get too much in the weeds, changes to the NCAA for college baseball rules. And these have resulted in it getting really, really hard for kids coming out of high school, unless they're like top in the country, to go to a college D1 or D2 baseball program. So my son, who we thought would be committed to a school, is not committed yet. And we have had to really change directions in where we're going to apply colleges. And it's unsettled. And so many of his friends are settled. And the low has been not being able to help him because I don't have an answer aside from, well, let's look in new places. Let's talk to more coaches. Lots of coaches are interested. None are willing to commit. So let's just keep trying and let's look at this and let's look at that and finding options. But it's his dream so much more than it is ours. And then to be able to not harness that and solve it for him, that's so hard as a parent,
That makes sense. Makes sense.
And then my buffalo, oh my gosh. I was just telling a story last night. For any parents that are listening right now, I'm about to reveal a truth about the season that if your children are in the car, you can just skip for 1 minute if you want to. And we were all talking about how we found out the truth about Santa when we were children. I have a 7-year-old, so the topic is hot on our minds. And I told the story about how when I found out, I decided that this was an injustice, that our parents were all lying to us. And at 10 years old, decided to tell every younger cousin and every child that was riding in the car with us on our way to a big event. And everyone trying to shush me. And I was like, they need to know.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, I don't
Conviction.
know. Yes, I don't know that anything could be more me in that I was using zero forethought and being very ADHD, which I am, and also a sense of justice. and fairness in the
I
world.
can understand that. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is very revealing about
Yeah,
you. I
I
really
know.
understand. So before we get into some more specific questions, I want to start with a baseline. What would you say are your top reasons for why we absolutely must be talking to our boys about tough topics? Why we absolutely must start knocking on closed doors, as you talk about in your book, at this point, instead of just letting chips fall as they may, as we've done in the past. And
Well, I'll,
who would like to
I'll take
answer?
this one
Okay.
because the number one reason why is because they want us to.
Mm,
The boys want to be spoken with and connected with and talked to and assisted in making these hard choices and learning these lessons. They may not know how to ask for it, but the number one reason why is because they want it.
mm. It's really the truth. And interestingly, and I talk about this in my book as well, that when we talk about these tough topics, a lot of people think, oh, if I talk about them, then they'll want to
Mm.
engage in these poor behaviors. It's like my worst fear coming true. But it turns out that it's protective. And the boys and the girls are able to make wiser decisions. They feel like they have somebody on their side, and they're much less likely to engage in the behaviors that would give us pause, whether it's premature sex or drugs and alcohol, suicide, the list goes on. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Boys grow up limited by what you talk about in your book. We've heard before. We had Rosalind Wiseman talk about it too. It's this, the man box, expectations and limitations that effectively box our sons in as it relates to what they can do, what they can like, what they become, what they can strive for, what they can feel, how they can and should behave, and so much more. So, what are some specific conversations you would want us to have with our boys ASAP to help lift up those limits while acknowledging that those opinions may loom out there, but not in this home, not here with us?
It's such a great question. I think this idea of the man box is that boys are very aware of their surroundings and how they might be judged for the kind of things that you were articulating, what color clothes they wear, and how they physically move their body, and whether they're good at sports or how big their body is, all those kind of things. And that comes out, a lot in middle school, a lot as people are going through puberty, and they're sort of figuring out their own identity and how they want to be in the world at the same time that their body and their peers' bodies are going through these tremendous changes, or maybe they're a little bit behind, maybe they're a little bit ahead, and all those things play into it. And then these big expectations of what is a man supposed to act like, and they're trying to figure that out. So I think that parents just really need to be in the mix of those. Like we talk a lot about influencers from the outside, and boys are really looking for guidance. That if you that's why influencers in the manosphere has such a hold in the culture of boys, is because boys are looking for guidance. And I don't think we should cede that space entirely to people online. I think we should really be in the mix of saying, like, these are things that I believe. And so around this idea of the man box, it's that all the ways that men can be in the world, it's not just super macho, aggressive, warrior kind of things. Those could be part of what you could choose to be a man that has part of that as your life. But you could also be an artist. You could be a poet. You could be someone who dresses in really flashy, flamboyant colors. And those are perfectly also good ways to be a man. And just the idea, like, you have choices and you have a wide range of things to choose from about how to be, and not just this narrow lane of what you might see in society.
Mm.
And I think part of that is when you do see people being restrictive around that, or teasing people about, oh, that's not how a real man acts, or um, you got to man up or be tough, or any kind of words like that, to be really aware of it. Sometimes that policing comes from our own families, or from people close to us. And I think we should get in there and say, like, actually, I don't really agree with that. I think men can be lots of things. And I think it's
Mm.
okay to cry, and I think it's okay to show emotions. Um, I think all of these are especially important things for men to do with the boys in their life,
You
and
know,
to really demonstrate. Like, and you may need to narrate it. You may need to say, I'm feeling really frustrated right now, or the thing that happened to me earlier today at work, I got super angry, and I felt like punching someone. I felt like smashing the table, but I didn't do that because I knew I'd get in trouble, or I know that's not the right thing to do. But I have that emotion, and sort of acknowledge that you have those emotions, but also acknowledge like, oh my gosh, when I watched that movie, I felt super sad, and I just wanted to cry afterwards. And to show all of those things or to talk about all those things is a way to connect with boys and let them know that's all okay.
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
we're doing an enormous amount of emotional regulation as adults all day long, every day. And we're doing it most of the time so quietly that our kids have no idea that we're doing it. And I realized this when one of my kids identified the other one as so angry. He's the more expressive one. And I was like, well, everyone gets angry in that situation, whether cut off when you're driving or somebody said something hurtful. And they were like, well, dad doesn't get angry about that.
Mm,
And I'm like,
mm.
he does, but he manages it. So taking that internal monologue, especially men, but anybody can do this, and modeling like, so and so did this to me at work. And I'll be honest with you, it kind of hurt my feelings. And just
Mhm.
saying it and then talking about how it feels, how you worked through it and how it was resolved and how you're feeling now, externalizing it so that they can learn from it.
Yes, I call that parenting out loud. And I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so important to do that because even as we're teaching, making mistakes and
Mhm.
normalizing that, oh, I spilled this from when you're little, your kids are little. I spilled this. I've messed up. I now need to clean this up because we can do things automatically. And
Mhm.
as the kids are getting older, to be able to say, wow, that pissed me off.
Mhm.
And I need to take some deep breaths right now instead of doing it on our own, which we would be doing automatically. We're parenting out loud so that they can hear the process and understand how we're managing our feelings so that they can do it too. So, you talk about dating and sex and consent in this book. And my kids are currently 15 and 16. So these conversations are circulating around my home often now. Consent was something we talked about since the kids are toddlers. And you allude to that as well in your book, that these are things that we should be talking about starting from a very young age. But if you haven't, in the words of Jess Leahy, I also have had on this podcast, like, today's better than never, or today's better than sometime down the line. So, how do we start talking to our kids about dating when you don't have a template for it because nobody did that, to the kids in the 80s and or the 90s, when you're becoming aware that your son is talking to somebody, which is now the
Yes, that
term
term.
talking. We're talking. I was like, you're talking. That
I
just means you're talking.
know.
You only get to talk to one person. You can't be talking to a lot of people. You talk to one person at a time. This
Yeah.
is not your old school dating situation. I'm talking to somebody. It looks a lot like dating, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's talking. So basically, thinking about starting to date someone, it's kind of like taking the car out for a little ride. You're like, do I like this? Let's test drive it. No touching, but just like, let's test drive this. What topics would be really important to cover if your child is now talking to girls, maybe have crushes on girls or boys, whatever? Is there a preference? But they're getting to the point where they may be dating. How do we
Yeah.
start that conversation?
I love what you just did, which was okay. Tell me the terminology, because when I was in high school,
Yeah.
you were going out, and my mom
Yes.
was confused by going out. She said, "Is going out the same as going with?" So tell me about what is this? Talking? You're just talking, but is there have that
Yes.
conversation and make it fun. Like, yeah, oh, I'm an old lady. I don't know. And kind of joking around about it. And then you can be like, and then you can say, have you been talking with anybody? And then try really hard when you say that to be cool, because that my mother was not cool about it. And it was very hard to talk to her, and just being like, oh, mom, just be like, oh, well, you can talk to me about it when you want. Instead of grilling, we have an instinct to want to grill to get our answers. And so own your awkwardness. I'm nosy. My kids know it. And I say, listen, I am nosy. And you can just say, Mom, I'm not ready to talk about it. And
Mhm.
giving them that out, but keep it as fun as you possibly can when it comes to dating. You can get really serious about consent and sex. Of course, Christopher, as a health educator, is really good at that topic.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you about this in 1 second. I just wanted to say that when my son was telling me about the talking to,
Yeah.
I was like, so, I mean, from the outside, it definitely looks a lot like dating.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they even went to the movies.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is very
They're
confusing.
dating.
This
Yes.
this this looks like dating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So
he was telling me, he's like, oh no, like you wouldn't kiss somebody that you're talking to, but you also wouldn't talk to multiple people. You don't do that. And then I was like, okay, so would you get her a gift for the holidays? And he's like, not if we're not boyfriend, girlfriend, if we're just
Oh,
talking to.
yeah.
But she might have gotten me a present, but I would not have gotten her one. Like that's not the way that I think about this. I'm not going to
Oh,
speak for
wow.
her, but like for me, I wouldn't have done that. So it's just very interesting. There are nuances, and I really appreciate what you're saying that we really need to ask these
Yeah.
questions and not assume. So
And I love that
Christopher,
you didn't judge it, by the way. I just want to say, I
oh
love that you
no.
didn't go, you're doing this wrong.
No, I didn't. And I really so super appreciate my son and my daughter talking to me about all these
Yeah.
topics. I actually really appreciate their friends talking to me about these
Oh, me
topics. I
too.
think
I
it
love
is
that.
just the best thing. So I definitely would not make a thing of that. I think it's great. Christopher, so along with the dating question comes the possible implication of getting more serious and kissing, touching, possibly sex. And once we're getting into that area, a lot of people will shut down because, again, no template for that conversation. And also, hoping, wishing, thinking that they'll find out some other way that so that you don't have to do it because it's uncomfortable. But knowing, I had this conversation with somebody once when I was writing my chapter on sex, and she said to me, I'm so glad I don't have to have that conversation with my son yet. He's 13. And I was like, yeah. So this is just, this is a caveat here, people. Like, don't think that your son doesn't need this conversation. Like, they do. So, Christopher, what kind of conversations do you think like we have to have if our kid is starting to show signs that they may be moving from talking to dating?
well, I do want to just flag for people that for people who grew up in a different generation than their kids. Sometimes they try to go to the point of being a cool parent by sort of assuming that
Yeah.
kids are the same as they were back a generation or two ago. And we have actually seen a big decline in the number of kids who say they're dating. Sexual activity rates have not, they've gone down.
Yes.
Um, Teen pregnancy has gone tremendously down. And so I think it's really good to give young people information so that they can make decisions. But I would not start with the assumption that everyone is wanting to be
Yes.
sexual or wanting to date, because that's actually not true for many kids these days. And
Right.
the same
Right.
thing, the same kind of declines we've seen with substance use. So
Yes.
sometimes parents kind of come in saying like, "Oh, well, everybody's drinking, or of course
Mm,
everybody smokes weed," and
It's not
um,
true. Yeah.
that's
no.
not true
Right.
anymore.
And
Right.
we shouldn't
Really
Um,
assume
important.
that our boys are not looking for love. I think in the
Yeah.
90s and the 80s, that was the message, right? Was that boys are horn dogs and girls are gatekeepers. And it's really important that we consider that our boys might be looking to have a crush and fall in love and
Yeah.
have emotional intimacy with somebody and not just assume that's a girl thing, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, have these kind of conversations with girls, often from a place of protection, or trying to do. You're talking about pregnancy prevention, and are really explicit, sort of because they feel like, oh, this is necessary. I need to give the information out of a sense of protection. And
Hmm.
often with boys, I feel like I see parents who kind of skip the conversations, or they say, "You know about condoms, right? All right, well, go have fun. Just don't get anybody
Right.
pregnant." And that's the end of the conversation. And I do
Right.
think, just like what Joanna said, like boys are just as sensitive as anybody else around relationships, and many of them, like the big concerns are not around um, the mechanics of sex or pregnancy. It's around heartache and emotional
Mm.
connection and wanting to be loved, all those kind of things. So have those kind of conversations just as much, and have really, like, what does it mean to be a good partner? I
Mm.
love the questions you're asking, like, would you get someone a gift? Like, how do you show that you care about someone? Um, and those are things that take skills and practice. And in my health classes, we will do an actual exercise of planning a date, and you could call it planning, like planning to get together with someone. But basically, and if you're talking to a young teenager, they can't drive. They usually don't have very much money. So you're thinking about, like, okay, you want to meet up with someone. You got their number. You're in touch, but how do you actually move to making a plan to meet up with someone in real life? Like, where would you go? How would you dress? What would you want to know about them before you meet up? How long do you want to spend with them?
Mm.
How much money do you have to spend on this date? And are you paying for the whole thing, or are you splitting it, or are they paying for the whole thing? Um, how are you going to get around? Is someone going to drop you off? Are you taking public transportation? Are you walking? Like, all those kind of things. And then thinking about that, like, if this is a successful thing and you feel connected, and then it's the end of the night, how do you want it to end? Like, and um, that is, I think, a way to kind of make things a little more practical. Like, really, in class, we actually write down answers, and they're in small groups, and they sort of correct each other. And sometimes people try and show off, like, "Oh, like, we're totally going to have sex," and other kids are like, "No, you're not. You're just meeting this person." Uh,
Yes.
they try to have a show off answer, and the other kids are pretty quick to correct them, like, maybe have a kiss on the cheek, or like,
Right.
Yeah.
um,
That's the best, when they can police each other like
Hmm.
that. And if anyone's feeling overwhelmed, our book, Talk to Your Boys, has all of these things Christopher just said. He lists them out. So
Hmm.
you don't have to feel like, I'll never remember all that. And you
Right.
don't have to do all that in one conversation either. Like, this can be a few quick chats,
Hmm.
if your kid is starting to get wiggly when you're talking about it.
Yeah,
and
it's a series of conversations, as we all say. And I do love that in your book, you provide so many questions. I think it's so important that we don't need to know all of the answers, that questions show that we're interested, we're curious, we're listening. We want to know from them rather than lecture them on what we know. Because as my kid tells me, I was born in the 1900s, and
Yeah,
how could I possibly know?
I am so offended by that fact,
He
and I
pulls it
know
up.
it's a
That's,
fact.
yeah.
It's so offensive.
It's so offensive because it sounds like I should be like
Oh,
at Little House on the Prairie. Like
yes,
it's
yes,
like
covered
it
wagons.
does. It does. We were born in the 1900s and you have no idea what kids today are actually thinking.
Yeah,
And I was like, wow, I'm a
yeah.
child development specialist and I
I
know
think I
nothing.
do. Yeah. Well,
But
and
thank you.
I want to add that we really like Dr. Dan Siegel's
Yes.
perspective that we can help our kids practice thinking and thinking well and
Hmm.
asking these questions. We have the section in the book that are the no wrong answers type of questions.
Yes.
So it's just like, what do you think you would do if you saw one of your friends shoplifting, and just saying no wrong answers
Hmm.
and get them thinking about it. And as you know, Dr. Siegel says, basically it kind of lights up a part of the brain and helps the brain, lift weights, grow muscles around making decisions and thinking deeply about those things. And when they're in that specific scenario or another specific scenario that also could be challenging, they've been flexing that metaphorical muscle in their brain to consider all the sides and weigh all the options. And that's
Hmm.
true with sex and dating too. So you can ask, well, how are you going to get to the movies with so and so? Um, and he may just need to be inspired to start thinking ahead. He doesn't necessarily have to answer it right in that moment, right? Let's just get the ball rolling and get our brains lighting up in that way that we will start planning some specifics.
Mm.
And I love thinking about sort of the emotionality of like of after the event. Like
Mhm.
for somebody who is actually at a point where they might do something sexual, maybe they're making out or they're taking their shirts off or whatever the situation is. But thinking about when that encounter ends, how do you want the other person to feel? How do you want to feel?
I love that.
Um, because a lot of the sort of older way of talking about sexuality to teenagers, things like scoring bases, you're like,
Mhm.
and it's a lot of the talk for boys is about getting something from somebody else. Like, what
Mm.
can you get from that? Get that girl to do, or what can you take from her? And doesn't have a lot of agency for either person to really say like, this is what I want to do. This would feel good to me. This doesn't feel good. That other thing, I don't ever want to do
Mm.
that. And to, I really think the language of consent can be really powerful for people when they're thinking about sexuality because they can set limits and expect their partner to respect those limits and recognize that everybody has things that they like that turn them on that they find attractive and they have things that they're like no that is not I'm never going to be into that or I'm not going to be into that very often
Hmm.
and the goal of a consensual encounter is for everybody to walk away feeling like oh that was fun that was satisfying even if they say like I don't think I want to do that again they are not walking away feeling like they're not feeling manipulated. They're not feeling like they
Or
were,
regretful.
Yeah.
yeah, or forced to
Hmm.
do something that they
Or
didn't want to do.
lonely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And that's
lonely.
that brainstorming thing about like how would you like them to feel? How would you like to feel? And also what feelings would you like to we want to avoid regret. We do want to avoid someone feeling lonely. And those a fun thing that I learned from Dr. Laura Berman years ago, listening to her show on Oprah Radio, was talking about sex as fun with kids, as you can phrase it however. I said, two grown-ups who care about each other. They have sex sometimes just because it's fun. It's fun
Hmm.
for both of them. Both of them are happy about it, and
Hmm.
and keeping that spirit of an emotion enmeshed with it. And I'm not judging casual sex. Casual sex, in my mind, should also be fun in its ways, right? Or connective in a way. And even if you never saw the person again, I don't know that I
Hmm.
would tell a 13-year-old that, but I
Right.
might tell my child that when they're getting ready to go to college.
Hmm.
And I would pair that with a message that also many young people find that when they that casual sex carries more emotions than they expect.
Oh,
Yes.
that is
That
good.
is,
Yes.
and boys often get that message like, oh, like you can just have sex and not there's no feeling attached to
Yeah.
it. You're
No attachments. Yeah.
just trying to get a big body count.
Mm.
And that is not the experience of most people. Most people
Right.
have emotions when they're sexual with another person. Feelings come up. They catch feelings, and those feelings can sometimes be pretty serious. So
Hmm. Hmm.
um, that's just something that you to be aware of in the mix of other things that you're talking about with sexuality.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
good conversations, and I've had those with my kids, and it's interesting for them to tell me about their feelings about who they would want to date or who they would not want to date based on their personal feelings towards that type of casual sex or having multiple partners. It's really interesting. Boys have opinions on this, and
Yeah.
they may not be what you expect. So, along the same lines, our teen boys are getting exposed to alcohol and drugs and parties, not as much as it may have been in the past, but it's still happening and certainly happening in certain locations, even if they're not doing it themselves. One teen told me recently that she saw a girl snorting cocaine off a toilet seat at her school. That was shocking for me. I mean, she
I
was
am
both.
shook by that.
Right. It's stayed with me. It's been
Yes.
about a week or two now. And it was both her opinion about the fact that it was cocaine. I would say it was cocaine, it was in school, and it was off a toilet seat. All three of those things were like she was very upset about it. And did tell a teacher what had happened, and they did act. So that part was good. As I mentioned, we had Jess Leahy on the show before, and she talked about substance use with teens. People want to kind of dive into that deeper. My question to you is, how can we engage our boys in discussing drugs and alcohol without sounding like old people, like our after school specials we used to have, or a tagline like just say no, or like a threatening scolder, like if you do this, you'll be in so much trouble that you won't even be able to sit down, or whatever people used to say, what the equivalent is today. So, side note, this is super hard to talk about because the stuff is very scary, and it's normal for our conversations to be like wanting to say, don't ever do this. And if I find out, you're dead, which is not helpful. So, how do we engage our kid in this conversation, understanding that this is super scary? Fentanyl is, also looming, and that's super scary. And making it so our kid wants to talk to us.
It does. Fentanyl does change things, but also gives us an entry point.
Oh, good.
For talking about it. Christopher has
So
lots of
I
ideas.
worked with, yeah, I've been very fortunate to work for the last couple of years with a group called Song for Charlie, which is a nonprofit organization. And I worked with them on helping build a website called the new drug talk.org. And that is really specifically addressing this issue of how parents can talk to kids about drugs with fentanyl in the mix, and really emphasizing that prescription pills there are very good counterfeits available for prescription pills, and when people are buying pills from on social media or getting them from friends, getting it from sources where you're not getting it directly from pharmacists, often those are counterfeit, and those counterfeit pills, unfortunately now, are very often contain fentanyl. And Song for Charlie was founded by a family who lost their son to a fentanyl overdose from a fake pill. And their whole mission is to try and get the message out about this risk that didn't really exist in the past in the same way. So trying to how to have those conversations is really important. You can use that website as a resource, thenewdrugtalk.org. We have some conversations in our book around how to talk about this, but what I tell my kids is like, never take a pill that's not prescribed to you, that comes in a prescription bottle that your doctor prescribed to you. Don't take random pills, and sometimes fentanyl is showing up in powdered drugs like cocaine. So those are ones that you have this risk that of sudden overdose and sudden death that just wasn't a factor as much in the past.
Yeah. And I find a good entry point, if this is kind of the language you communicate with your kids, it kind of is with me. I had my kids sit down and watch one of Dr. Laura Berman, again, a video about her son, Sammy Chapman, who died of, they actually, I don't know if she even knows if it's fentanyl, but it was an overdose from a counterfeit drug. And it was a drug that he got while he was in their home upstairs while they were all home. And she is a beloved psychologist, one of Oprah's favorites, and they had an amazing family. And I had my boys sit down and watch a video about Sammy made by Laura and her husband Sam, and I just said, it's a real boy with a wonderful family. Let's talk about it. And for us, that was a better way for them to connect it.
Yeah, that's super helpful. That, again, you don't have to have even the words. You can borrow somebody else's words who has been thinking about this and writing about this and working through it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I found that people are pretty comfortable with talking about drinking and driving. And I think we can borrow some lessons with how parents have become comfortable with messages around drinking and driving. So they say, I'd prefer if you don't drink at all. But if you're going to, definitely don't drive a car, and don't get in a car with someone who's been drinking.
Right.
And setting up those kind of like, you can call me anytime, you can get an Uber or a Lyft, get a ride home. And you're not going to be in trouble. Like the most important thing is for you to get home safe.
Yeah.
And I think you can adopt that kind of practical mindset where safety is the main goal. and apply it to other kind of substance use.
It's really important that we say that because the message that you're going to be in so much trouble if I find out you've been drinking or you took something can actually keep our kid from contacting us when they need us. If they did drink something, take something, they're at a party where it's happening and they don't want you to be telling them, this is it, your phone, your computer, your whole life is ended right now because I'm taking everything. So,
Well, and this is a model for, this is a warning for a lot of different conversations.
true.
For instance, if I find out you're watching Andrew Tate, you're going to lose your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Then if he sees something, and let's say Andrew Tate is in it and he has questions, he's not coming to you to
Right.
ask them. And we have so many boys that we interviewed more than 80 boys for this book. And then I have the boys in my life, and they tell me constantly, my dad says I can call him anytime I've been drinking, but I know I'll lose my car. Or I know he says
Oh.
I won't be in trouble, but I don't believe him. He's going to be so mad. So it's like,
Mm.
they don't believe us, and we need to find a way to communicate with them, whatever it is, whatever that consequence is going to be, and keep it so that they want to talk to you, or they want to confess to you, or they want to ask you for help. Because if you shut that down, they just won't.
Yeah.
Like you said, every single one tells me, no, I wouldn't, because of that reason.
Yeah. Short answer time. So complete these sentences. So when my son tells me that everything in school is dumb, learning is stupid at school, doesn't apply to his life, don't say this. Instead, say that.
Christopher, you want to take it, or do you want me to?
You
I
can
can
jump
take
in.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't say it's all very important and you need to get straight A's, or you're going to fail in life at general and disappoint everybody. So obviously you're not going to say all that, but saying, no, you do need pre-calculus for your English degree. No, be real. You don't. You don't. But one of the things, what I would say instead is, I I totally understand. And a lot of these things you probably won't specifically need, but your brain is growing in school in all sorts of different ways. So even if you don't use pre-calc, you are learning mathematical processes that are going to come in helpful later. And even if it's just the only reason you're learning it is to get that A or B so that you can go to that college that's on the top of your list, that's a good enough reason. And have
Mm-hmm.
them identify, what is your reason for getting whatever goal grade that you're setting, to pass, to get a C, to get a B, to get an A, no matter what. What's your reason? What's the outcome? And this is how it links back to that.
Love it. Uh, if I catch my son watching porn, don't say this. Instead, say this.
Well, don't lean on shame. So don't come in and say, "Oh my gosh, how could you watch that? You should be so ashamed of yourself." Um, Instead, say, start with curiosity. Can you tell me about what you were watching? And or I was surprised to see that on your screen. What's up? And just sort of an open-ended question like that. Start
Mm-hmm.
with curiosity. I do think it's important to kind of understand that in our current sort of teenage culture, almost everyone sees porn,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very common. Um, and we want to stay connected to our boys, and we actually want to talk about porn because one of the risks of people seeing porn is that they're learning about sex through the videos that they're seeing, and they're not. It's not a great way to learn about how sex actually works in most real life situations. So you
That
want to
is
be able
true.
to kind of actually have conversations about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come in really hot or really angry, or I'm taking away your computer and you're never getting it back, those conversations aren't going to happen.
Give us your top tip. What do you want people to walk away with after reading your book or listening to this podcast about talking to our boys?
I think that we really need to keep talking to boys longer than most people think we need to talk to them. So as they go through middle school, as they go through high school, as they go off into their young adult life or into college, to keep having kind of graduated levels of conversation, involving them more and respecting that their ideas may not always be the same as yours, but to really be thinking about ethics, thinking about how they want to live their life, what kind of person they want to be in the world, to keep those conversations going, and to not, even if they're sometimes shutting the door or saying, I don't want to talk right now, like to keep knocking at that door and keep trying to have those conversations.
I have two really quick tips that I think make a big difference. And this comes straight from the experts that we interviewed for this book. The first is ask your kid if it's a good time to talk. Yes, you're the parent. Yes, you can just impose if you want to, but start showing that you respect him as an individual by just saying, hey, it's now a good time to talk. Don't just assume that when he's looking at his phone or zoning out with his headphones on, that he's doing nothing. Sometimes doing nothing is important emotional work anyway. And just say, do you have a minute? I want to talk to you about something. It's important. Give a little preview. It's nothing serious, just a technicality. It's really serious. This is a big deal. We need about 20 minutes. That's step one. The second step is move. Move with your kid if that's what he responds to. If you can throw a ball back and forth, if you can be strumming guitars or drumming on drums together, if you can be building a tent, if you can just walk, then as Dr. Stantatkin told us, the brain then allows the adrenaline and the protective hormones and all the stress stuff to just settle down, and he can start opening up more. And you also might not be staring him straight in the eyes, which can be really intimidating to a lot of kids.
Absolutely. Give us the resource of the week. Where can we go to get more information about you, your book, and the work you're doing?
You can go right to our website, talktoyourboys.com, and Talk to Your Boys book on Instagram. That's where we share a lot of things. Joanna's got a TikTok. How do people find you on TikTok, Joanna?
I think it's by Joanna Schroeder. You could just put my name in. We're having a lot of interesting conversations over there lately. Whew.
Yes. And we will be putting all of this information in the show notes. So nobody needs to sit there and try to remember all of this. If you're running around or you're driving a car, please don't try to, jot it down or anything. We've got you. And the book here, again, is Talk to Your Boys. This is an earlier copy here. Yours will look even more beautiful than this. But I sat down, I wrote in it. I thought we had so many great conversations. We only touched on a few of them. There's 16 in here, and they're so good. I just want to thank you for both being on the show today and for talking about your work, this book. You really did a very comprehensive job, and I just appreciated hearing directly from the boys in here, as well as hearing your perspective on the questions we can ask, how to open up these conversations, and really underscoring how important it is to just have them. So thank you so very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was a wonderful talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I've got my takeaways, and sweet friends, I know you have yours, so let's discuss them. You can go up to Facebook to the Dr. Robyn Silverman page. We can chat about it. And Instagram, now I'll be going back and forth with Joanna all week because she's got her Instagram, and I'll have that up there. And I'll be taking some extractions straight here from this podcast so you can share them with your friends or partner or whoever you would like to say, hey, we need to get on this conversation, please. So you're up and I'm up, and let's go do it. So if you love this podcast like I did, I hope you'll go to iTunes and rate and review it so other people can hear about Joanna and Christopher's book. It's called Talk to Your Boys. And you can rate that on iTunes. You can rate this podcast and let people know how much you loved it. We always love to hear from you. And the more that we do that, the more people will hear about the outstanding solutions, the strategies in these great books. I truly appreciate it. That's all the time we have for today, my fellow parents, leaders, and educators. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Talk to Kids About Anything. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, please go to Dr. drrobynsilverman.com. There's so many great podcasts up there, and the show notes to this podcast will be up there as well. I look forward to weathering the storms and enjoying the sunny side of life together. And please remember, even on the days that you fall short, you've got this. You're here and you're getting the information you need. You may have heard something today and said, I didn't have that conversation yet, or my child tried to have that conversation with me and I shut it down. If you keep doing that, we're not moving forward. So just take that in and say, I could try again. Right? Parenting typically provides the ultimate do-over. So if you heard something today and you say, I messed up or I didn't have that conversation, you can have it today. You can have it tonight. You can have it next week. But let's do it and have these conversations because our kids want to and they need to. The book that we talked about today, Talk to Your Boys, my book, Kidversation Cards, these are all tools to get you thinking. This podcast, blame it on that. You heard something today, you want to have this conversation tonight. We all want your family to thrive. I see you and I'm right there with you. And as there are moments when we doubt our know-how, our choices, and our sweet, sweet sanity, please know you are 10 times the parent you think you are. Until next time, this is Dr. Robyn Silverman with How to Talk to Kids About Anything. Please tune in again and keep connecting through conversation. See you next week.
You've been listening to How to Talk to Kids About Anything with Dr. Robyn Silverman. For more information on books, articles, speaking engagements, or curriculum, please visit drrobynsilverman.com.